Welcome back to the morning edition, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, June 30th, 2025. Today's morning edition, we have Corporate Politics by the New York Times. Let's get into it. Good morning. The Senate is preparing to vote on Trump's policy bill. Canada said it would scrap a tax that angered Trump. Much of Europe is enduring extreme heat. More news is below. But first, we take a look at why businesses are pulling away from politics. Ladies and gentlemen, corporate politics. Years ago, companies practically tripped over each other to show support for Pride Month, Black Lives Matter, and other political causes. Now, increasingly, businesses want nothing to do with politics. Elon Musk left the government after his company's fortune plummeted. Target, Meta, and others reversed DEI policies. Nearly 40% of companies have scaled back support for Pride Month, according to Axios reports. Today, I'll look at what's changed and why. Political activism, ladies and gentlemen. Why do companies get involved in politics? To begin with, in most cases, the people who run them believe it's better for their bottom lines. Rarely do they do it solely because they believe in a cause. Three forces shape the decision to take a political stance, experts said. First, companies often follow other institutions. In 2015, the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage nationwide, and the president at the time backed the ruling. These events signaled to businesses that gay rights causes had become mainstream, and many responded by supporting Pride Month. Second, companies face internal pressure. In 2022, workers at Disney walked out over legislation in Florida that restricted discussion of gender and sexuality in schools. Disney fought subsequently for months with the state government, particularly Governor Gavin Newsom, over LGBTQ rights. Third and last, businesses chase consumer sentiment. Most Americans opposed the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, and many companies, including Apple and Starbucks, responded by voicing their support for abortion rights. This is a balancing act. Every political stance alienates some people and pleases others, the risk of alienation is usually bigger than the potential benefit, studies have found, which is why companies typically choose silence over activism, but sometimes there's a clear upside. If all of that sounds cold and calculating, that's because it is. Businesses look at activism almost in the same way they set a price, said Nushin Oren, who's a marketing expert at the University of Arizona. They want to find an equilibrium that will gain them the most profits and lose them at least. The least. Ladies and gentlemen, changing times. Situations can suddenly change too. In 2022, all three forces pushed companies to take racial justice issues seriously with genuine bipartisan agreement in America that the killing of George Floyd was wrong. Many businesses embraced Black Lives Matter and DEI initiatives. Over the past few years, the situation has become more complicated. President Trump opposed DEI surveys also show that such initiatives aren't broadly popular and that half or even most Americans don't want companies involved in politics. Now, businesses have rebalanced the costs and benefits of pleasing Trump versus their divided customers versus their split employees. In this complex situation, more companies have opted out to avoid linking themselves too closely to any particular cause. The Senate will begin voting on Trump's policy bill today. Senator Tom Tillis, one of the bill's Republican opponents, said he wouldn't seek re-election. Trump had threatened him with a primary. The legislation includes hundreds of provisions and would add more than $3 trillion to the national debt. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have a link to the list down below in the video description. Of nearly everything in the bill and who Excuse me, how much it would cost to save. Ladies and gentlemen, trade. Canada said it would cancel a tax on American technology companies that had led Trump to suspend trade talks. US and EU negotiators are working to strike a trade deal before Trump's July 9 tariff deadline. It's likely to be more of an outline than an actual agreement. Trump wants to make iPhones. Wants America to make iPhones. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have a link down in the video description that will explain how India is making their iPhones. Ladies and gentlemen, immigration. Trump vows to dismantle the MS-13 gang under an immigration deal with the Salvadorian president. The U.S. is returning the gang's leaders and threatening that effort. Immigration detentions have caused intense anxiety among Latinos in Los Angeles and prompted what some describe as a COVID-style shutdown of public events. Ladies and gentlemen, the Middle East. The chief UN nuclear inspector said that Iran could be enriching uranium in a matter of months. Trump claims that Tehran gave up its nuclear ambitions after a U.S. attack. An Israel attack on Tehran prison last week killed 71 people, according to Iranian state media. The jail is known for holding dissidents and political prisoners. Ladies and gentlemen, time for more international news. Much of Europe is in the grip of a damaging heat wave. Thousands of young people in Hong Kong lost careers and friends after joining mass protests 6 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have a link in the video description to some of their to more of some of their stories below. Two nuns in Brazil, went viral for beatboxing. Jack Nicks, the Times Brazil bureau chief, followed them as they recorded their first music video. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have a link to that video in the video description. Time for some more other big stories. Trump's supporters want his face on Mount Rushmore. This interactive story explores whether he should or should even, or even could be added. In Idaho, a gunman started a wildfire and shot at the firefighters who responded, killing 2 and injured another. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, he sniped at the firefighters, and as far as I knew, just struck the firefighters and killed them both. Ladies and gentlemen, time for an opinion. Europe's push to militarize risks breaking up the European Union as countries compete for arms contracts. Ontario Jagger writes, when Tariq Zaid, Z-I-A-D, came out to his religious parents, they disowned him. It was price he paid to cultivate a new life of love, he writes. Here are columns by David French on a judicial nominee and Carlos Lozada on Trump's favorite question. The Times sale our best rate for readers of the morning. Save now, ladies and gentlemen, with our best offer on unlimited news and analysis as part of the complete Times experience. $1 a week for your first year. Ladies and gentlemen, time for your morning reads. It's not easy for food manufacturers seeking to replace artificial colors. Green can be an expensive challenge. Is he cheating? The world's best squash player is testing the rules of the game. Summer jobs, why a teenage rite of passage may be fading away. Imposter, the artist Emma Webster thought Lady Gaga had brought her work, then things got strange. Sketched out, an illustrator confronts his fears about AI the way he knows how. Illusion of the Year. 2 neuroscientists started a contest to explore the gaps and limits of human perception. Metropolitan Diary. I gave them my last dollar. Your pick, the last click in the morning. The most clicked in the morning. Yesterday was about the Senate and the policy bill. Lives lived. D. Wayne Lucas was a Hall of Fame horse trainer who revolutionized thoroughbred racing with a corporate approach during a career that spanned nearly 50 years. Lucas died at 89. Ladies and gentlemen, time for sports. Trading people online were searching for news about LeBron James, who exercised his option to stay with the Lakers for his 23rd NBA season. The team will pay him around $53 million. Soccer, Emma Hayes chose an entirely new lineup for the U.S. women's national team's friendly with Ireland. The result was familiar, a blowout win against an overmatched foe. WNBA Caitlin Clark and Napisa Collier will face off as captains of the 2025 All-Star teams in Indianapolis next month after winning a fan vote. Ladies and gentlemen, arts and ideas. Thousands of Jaws superfans recently descended on Martha's Vineyard to celebrate the movie's 50th anniversary. The birthday festivities included meet and greets, signings, film screenings, and an exhibit. But most fans, for most fans, the real draw was the island itself, the sweeping grass-fringed beaches and idyllic villages they had come to love from repeated viewings of Steven Spielberg's first blockbuster. Ladies and gentlemen, time for more on culture. The Irish rap group Kneecap has landed in trouble for anti-Israel statements, but at Glastonbury, Britain's biggest music festival, thousands cheered the group. In season 4 of The Bear, the restaurant's business challenge is balancing comfort food and Haute cuisine. The show's own creative issues are similar, our critics say. For F1, the movie, the real racers taught Brad Pitt and Damson Idris how to drive real race cars. The film has given Apple its first box office hit. These are the 21 best croissants, croissants, in New York City right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the morning recommends make fudgy s'mores brownies even if you don't have access to a campfire. Soothe a sore neck, boost productivity and focus with these podcasts. Scrub your data from the internet. Take our news quiz. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have a link to the news quiz in the video description. Here is today's spelling bee. Yesterday's program was braving. And here are today's mini crossword, Wordle connections, sports connections, and strands. Thanks for spending part of your morning with the New York Times. See you tomorrow. Sign up here to get this newsletter in your inbox. Reach out to our team at themorning@newyorktimes.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have a link to that in the to sign up in the video description. That is all for this news video, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy it, please firstly like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Secondly, if you want to make sure you're always up to date on all the things legal breaking, reporting wise on the side of politics, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Thirdly, if you guys want to make sure you're always up to date, please hit the bell icon as well as the all notifications option. The bell icon is located directly beneath the screen here on the right hand side of the subscribe button. Thirdly, if you guys also want to make sure you're always up to date, please follow me on my social medias. That'll be linked down below in the video description. You will be updated instantly when I upload brand new legal breaking, reporting, analysis videos to the channel. I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, Threads, as well as TikTok. Fifthly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach and achieve the goal of 190 plus subscribers. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm saying 190 plus subscribers is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 190 subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach and achieve right after we reach and achieve the goal of 190 subscribers. Fifthly, ladies and gentlemen, please stay safe. Second to last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, please stay positive. Even though, unfortunately, I know it's hard for the majority of you to stay positive during these unfortunate, illegal, induced darkness times caused by the illegal, unconstitutional Trump administration, Trump regime, and know that justice will prevail eventually correctly on the correct side of the law despite Donald Trump and his illegal, unconstitutional administration and regime's illegal executive orders, actions, and behaviors. Despite the recent, unfortunate, illegal, unlawful, devastating Supreme Court ruling. And always look for the points of light in today's unfortunate induced darkness. And I will talk to you guys in the next legal breaking reporting and legal breaking news reporting and video analysis update.